as Jessica said, I am Sharif. I am the founder of AguaClara Reach, which is a nonprofit based in Ithaca that seeks to increase access to safe drinking water on tap globally. So the AguaClara program actually started as a student-based research program in civil engineering in 2005. That was founded by Dr. Monroe Weber Shirk. And so that program was focused on developing sustainable solutions for drinking water supply in communities that couldn't sustain access to it. So that program came up with about 3 main principles to having long-term drinking water access in a community that is struggling. One of those aspects is that the plants have to be built by community labor using locally available materials. They also have to be operated by the community members in the long run, so it has to be very simple to operate. And it has to be powered by gravity so we can build it off-grid. So the students were developing these technologies, and in the scientific advancements they were able to make, we were able to take water that looks like this chocolatey milk into water that looks like this for 1/3 of the operational cost of a conventional mechanized plant. So the students were actually they were partnering with an NGO in Honduras to build these systems for real communities. So in 2012, we founded an entity separate from Cornell, though we continued to collaborate with the civil engineering program, and we partnered with the Tata-Cornell Institute. So with very generous funding, we were able to explore opportunities in India and see where we could be most helpful. We explored some villages in Jharkhand, and we were finding water supply systems that looked something like this, where there would be a lowland sanitary well that had source water that was relatively clear. It wasn't that chocolate milk looking water that you would get in Honduras during the rainy season. That water would then be pumped up to an overhead tank, and that water was then gravity fed to households by individual taps. So because we were looking at smaller communities and different quality of water, we had to adapt what we were doing in Honduras. And we came up with a system that looked like this, where we built a water treatment facility on top of what would normally be your overhead storage tank. In there, we built enclosed stacked rapid sand filters. These are filters that in 1/6 of the area of a conventional rapid sand filter can treat the same quality and can produce the same quality of water, and it requires 1/6 as much water to backwash, which is a way of cleaning the filter. Then to disinfect the water, we had a system that is a chemical dose controller. That chemical dose controller can automatically adjust the flow of chemical based on the quantity of water that is flowing that you want to treat. And it can do that without any electronics, sensors, pumps, or things that are likely to fail and hard to replace in a rural village. So we built 4 of those systems in Jharkhand with the help of TCI, serving 2,000 people in total. And TCI was also very helpful in validating the impact of what it is we tried to do. So TCI scholar Shuli Vanaja, who you would have seen in the first video that was shown earlier today, she was studying how much time communities would save in not having to collect water. And she found that there was about a 60% reduction in the time households were spending in collecting water from distant sources. And that saved time led to a 20% increase for women in their primary occupation, which often meant agriculture, or it would mean household chores, or, which would include childcare, which has direct health outcomes. So there were several things we learned from the 4 systems that we built in Jharkhand. One, what we were a little surprised to see, and that is that filtration is sometimes overkill for these lowland sanitary wells. The water is actually very clear, and they don't need a lot of extra filtration. But what they do need is the disinfection. So we wanted to make a simpler system, and we thought, okay, we can at least use our chemical dosers. we continued to talk to our partners and the operators of the systems, and we learned that another thing that they really wanted to see improved was the modularity, to make it easier to install, kind of make it a plug-and-play sort of system. So what we did was we developed a new hydrodoser, which is the next generation of our chemical dose controller to disinfect water using chlorine. Another thing we learned was that taste matters. So after Shuli had done the research on the AguaClara water treatment plants in Jharkhand, she was inspired to go on and continue her research throughout the state on other water supply systems. And she was finding that people's choice in which water source to use was sometimes not related to convenience or even the actual quality of water, but sometimes more so the taste or what was traditionally thought to be a safe drinking water source. So that's really important for us when we disinfect the water. We really want to be careful to not alter the taste of the water too much. And we also want to have good training programs so that people in the community understand when water is really safe, that maybe just because it looks safe doesn't mean that it won't cause waterborne illness. And some interesting things that we learned were that the communities were actually calling each other up to help each other when things would go wrong. So if for some reason they found one of the filters had turned off and they couldn't figure out why, rather than call us or call our partner NGO, they called the operator next door, which was wonderful because they could then solve the problems quickly. They were learning together and they were empowering each other. So this cross-community collaboration was something we really wanted to capitalize on in our work moving forward. So what we're doing now is we are taking our work to Odisha, and we're doing that because in Odisha, in addition to the pumped water supply systems, there are gravity-based water supply systems, which is what AguaClara technologies were originally designed for. We're also partnering with Gram Vikas, which they're an NGO that has a long history in water and sanitation. They've built a lot of toilets and a lot of water supply systems. They've tried a lot of water treatment technologies, so they have a lot of knowledge about what works and what doesn't. And so they're helping us expand these hydrodosers into an additional 60 villages in the next couple of years, which of course wouldn't be possible with continued support from TCI. So the way that program is going to work is we're going to train an initial batch of communities in how to build, install, and operate these systems. And then those communities will be the trainers of the next set of communities, and so on. And beyond those 2 years, Gram Vikas is creating a water quality management program where they're going to revisit every water quality system they've done in the past. So that's about 1,200 systems. And that's spanning geographically all of the white area you see in this map. And they're going to be reevaluating all of those old systems for retrofitting and including the hydrodoser to make sure that the water they're supplying is actually safe to drink. So I just want to conclude with a big thank you to TCI for the support that you've given us from the very beginning of our founding and the support you continue to give us to expand into Odisha. We couldn't have the impact that we're having without you, and we're really looking forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.